The silence of the desert night was broken only by the deep mechanical roar echoing across the skies. High above, under the cloak of darkness, massive shadows cut across the clouds. C-17 Globemaster III aircraft, their immense frames barely visible against the black horizon. To the untrained eye, it could have been routine transport, but intelligence networks across the Middle East knew better. What unfolded that night was no simple exercise. It was a calculated move, one that left Iran and its observers stunned, questioning what came next. Inside each Globemaster, elite paratroopers sat in silence. Their eyes scanned the dim red lighting of the cabin, their weapons strapped tightly to their chests. They were not ordinary soldiers. These were specialized units, battle-tested in multiple theaters from Afghanistan to Syria, carrying out missions so secretive that even regional allies were often left in the dark. The air inside the aircraft was tense, thick with anticipation. Each man and woman aboard knew that once those bay doors opened, the mission would alter the fragile balance of power in the Middle East. For weeks, whispers had circled intelligence channels. American forces had been repositioning, training in unusual patterns, quietly shifting logistics in Europe and the Mediterranean. Satellite imagery had captured unusual activity in U.S. bases stretching from Italy to Qatar, while naval traffic in the Persian Gulf had surged. Iran, long confident in its surveillance and counterintelligence capabilities, was caught off guard when confirmation arrived. The U.S. had mobilized a fleet of C-17s in near total secrecy. Their destination remained classified, but the direction was unmistakable. Analysts in Tehran scrambled to piece together what this meant. Was it a show of force meant to intimidate? A prelude to a strike on Iranian infrastructure? Or something even larger? A message not just to Iran, but to the entire region? The timing couldn't have been more critical. Only days before, reports surfaced of escalating clashes between US-backed coalitions and proxy forces allegedly tied to Iranian influence. The tension had been simmering, but this deployment shifted it into uncharted territory. What unsettled Iranian officials most wasn't the aircraft themselves, but who was inside. Night paratrooper operations are not deployed lightly. They are high-risk, high-reward missions designed for rapid infiltration, sabotage, or the swift capture of strategic targets. Every soldier aboard the C-17s was equipped with next-generation night vision technology, encrypted communication gear, and heavy weaponry customized for urban and desert warfare. Drones, compact surveillance equipment, and electronic warfare packs filled the remaining cargo space. If this force dropped into hostile territory, resistance would have little chance to react before critical assets were neutralized. The psychological effect of such a move rippled instantly. Within hours of the sighting, Iranian state television interrupted broadcasts with urgent commentary, downplaying the significance but betraying unease in its tone. On encrypted messaging platforms, chatter from regional militias surged. Commanders demanded answers, issuing orders to heighten readiness along border zones and critical oil routes. Aerial defense units in southwestern Iran were placed on high alert, their radar systems scanning the skies with renewed urgency. Meanwhile, inside the C-17s, the soldiers prepared in silence. The rhythmic hum of the engines was their only soundtrack. Some reviewed mission maps, their fingers tracing possible drop zones across contested regions. Others simply closed their eyes, steadying their breathing. The reality was clear. If they were called to jump, they would be landing in one of the most volatile and unpredictable arenas on Earth. Military strategists in Washington had crafted this mission with precision. Officially, the Pentagon issued no statement, but anonymous sources hinted that the operation's goals were multifaceted. It was about deterrence, but also about readiness. By mobilizing paratroopers at night, the U.S. sent a clear message. It retained the ability to project overwhelming force at any time, in any place, with little warning. The presence of these forces alone could alter calculations in Tehran, Damascus, and beyond. Observers across Europe and the Gulf states watched closely. NATO allies discreetly supported the move, recognizing its role in stabilizing regional tensions, while adversaries accused the U.S. of reckless provocation. Yet even allies could not deny the scale of the operation. A dozen C-17 Globemasters in coordinated formation meant something more than a symbolic gesture. It suggested preparation for sustained action. The strategic ambiguity was intentional. Would these paratroopers descend into Iraq, reinforcing bases already threatened by regional militias? Would they deploy in Syria, targeting weapon depots linked to Iranian supply chains? Or would they move even further east, closer to Iran itself, in a daring show of resolve? Every possibility carried enormous consequences. In Tehran's war rooms, generals pored over satellite images and intercepted signals, desperate to predict the next step. Some argued it was a bluff, a demonstration to keep Iran from pushing further in regional proxy wars. Others warned that underestimating the US would be catastrophic. "They don't move elite units for theatrics," one senior official reportedly said. "This is preparation for something we cannot yet see." The world waited. Social media exploded with speculation as grainy footage of the C-17s surfaced, captured by night vision cameras from undisclosed locations. Clips showing the dark silhouettes streaking across the night sky circulated rapidly, fueling rumors of imminent escalation. Commentators debated whether the region stood at the brink of a new conflict, or if this was another chapter in the long, dangerous game of deterrence. Inside the aircraft, the paratroopers finally received the signal to prepare. Harnesses were checked, weapons loaded, gear secured. The red light above the bay door glowed ominously, then shifted to amber. Heartbeats quickened. Each soldier knew that in moments, their boots might touch the ground of an undisclosed battleground, under conditions no civilian audience would ever fully grasp. But just as the anticipation reached its peak, the communication feed crackled. A coded message came through, redirecting part of the operation. Orders shifted. But to what exactly remained classified? Even the soldiers themselves were left in partial uncertainty. The amber light continued to glow, as if taunting them with the question no one yet had an answer for. The amber light inside the C-17 continued to glow, casting a dim aura over the faces of the soldiers. Each heartbeat echoed louder than the engines, the anticipation almost unbearable. Then, the light snapped to green. The bay doors roared open, and the desert wind howled into the cabin. One by one, silhouettes leapt into the abyss. The night swallowed them whole, parachutes barely visible against the moonless sky. Below, the desert stretched endlessly, but the drop zones were precise, coordinates chosen with surgical accuracy. Each soldier knew their landing point was critical to the mission's success. On the ground, Iranian radar operators tracked unusual movement, but struggled to pinpoint exact positions. Electronic warfare packs released by the paratroopers disrupted communications, blinding air defenses and sowing confusion. In command bunkers, alarms blared, yet the enemy could not determine where the infiltration truly began. Touching down silently, squads regrouped with remarkable discipline. Advanced drones were deployed instantly, their tiny frames buzzing upward to scan perimeters and relay live feeds. Portable jammers silenced local frequencies. What seemed like a handful of troops was, in reality, a force with the capability of an entire battalion. The orders were clear but fragmented. Secure strategic relay points, disable hostile surveillance outposts, and prepare staging grounds. Each task was designed to destabilize without direct confrontation. Still, the soldiers knew the mission could escalate at any second. One wrong move, and the desert would erupt in fire. In Tehran, generals received fragmented reports, radar anomalies, suspected incursions, unexplained signal blackouts. Panic crept into war rooms. Was this a decoy to distract from an even larger assault? Or the opening move of a wider campaign? The uncertainty gnawed at decision-makers, forcing them to weigh retaliation against restraint. Meanwhile, the paratroopers moved like ghosts through the terrain. Sand muffled their footsteps, night vision lenses glowing faintly in the dark. Every movement was rehearsed, every step calculated. For them, this was not just survival. It was about control, precision, and the message their presence alone delivered. But just as the squad secured their first objectives, encrypted radios crackled again. A new directive arrived, urgent, classified, and far more dangerous than anticipated. It wasn't merely about securing ground. It was about seizing something hidden, something the world was not supposed to know existed in these deserts. The mission, once thought to be deterrence, had shifted into uncharted territory. Soldiers exchanged brief glances, but followed orders without hesitation. What lay ahead could ignite more than a conflict. It could expose secrets buried deep beneath the sands. As the desert night closed in, the squads prepared to advance toward an undisclosed target. Drones scanned the horizon, weapons clicked into readiness, and the silence grew heavier. Were they about to uncover a hidden arsenal, intercept enemy leaders, or stumble upon a revelation that would change the balance of the Middle East forever? The desert held its secrets. For now, the paratroopers moved swiftly, guided by drone reconnaissance. Each squad carved its path through the barren landscape, marking positions with infrared beacons visible only to Allied sensors. The desert was vast, but their destination was clear, an installation buried in secrecy. Intelligence suggested the site wasn't a traditional military base. Satellite images had revealed faint outlines beneath the sand, structures hidden from plain sight. Rumors whispered of underground tunnels, weapons depots, or even advanced missile systems concealed to evade detection. As the lead squad approached a ridge, distant lights flickered. Armed patrols, local militia loyal to Tehran, moved in patterns suggesting they were guarding something valuable. The silence broke. A brief but precise firefight erupted, night vision tracers cutting across the darkness. The U.S. forces neutralized the threat in seconds, but the message was clear. The target was heavily protected. Electronic warfare units activated full-spectrum jammers. Iranian communications scrambled into chaos, command centers receiving distorted feeds and false locations. Drones dropped decoy transmitters, creating phantom signals that drew enemy forces miles away from the true incursion. Inside Iran's command hubs, alarms reached a fever pitch. Conflicting reports flooded in. Some claimed sabotage near oil pipelines, others warned of incursions near missile silos. The leadership struggled to separate truth from deception, knowing every delay played into U.S. hands. Finally, the squads reached the installation's entrance, a steel hatch camouflaged beneath layers of sand and rock. Cutting torches roared silently in the night as engineers worked swiftly. The desert wind masked their presence, but the clock was ticking. Every second risked detection from reinforcements. When the hatch finally gave way, the soldiers descended into darkness. What greeted them was not a weapons cache, but a vast underground complex humming with energy. Generators throbbed, corridors stretched deep into the earth, and crates marked with coded insignias lined the walls. Whispers over encrypted comms spread quickly. This wasn't just a hidden base. It was something larger, something Tehran never intended the world to see. Advanced systems, foreign markings, and experimental equipment hinted at collaboration far beyond regional borders.